All right, just going to give you a short rundown on this skill here. So what we're looking at here is what we would call in geography a pie graph. Sometimes they refer to it in maths as a sector chart. And I'd just like to talk to you about how you might interpret it and some of the types of questions you might get in an exam. So, pie graph versus sector chart. You can use them interchangeably in geography, we don't really mind. We do have some rules which are pretty distinct from other subject areas like maths. They don't tend to follow these rules, but it just gives us, as in geography, something that we can test you on at times. So the rules basically are, and I'm not going to write them out, but I'll certainly draw them. We can see them modelled here on the pie graph. So what we want to do is we start measuring or drawing our pie graph, each sector, from a north line. And then what we do from there is that we graph each sector from largest to smallest in a clockwise direction so that the largest sector gets graphed first. And I'll just put an arrow in to show my clockwise movement, followed by the next largest sector and so on. So the sectors, as you move in a clockwise direction, will progressively get smaller and smaller. You can have an other sector, and that's made up of all the things which are too small to graph, or that they don't really fit into one of the main categories that you're graphing. That other sector always goes last, even if it is fairly large itself. The rule that I use is if they can't be bothered naming it, I can't be bothered graphing it. So if I graph all the other sectors, whatever's left over will naturally be the other sector anyway. So what we need to take into account is that most of the time we'll probably have percentages given to us. If we don't, we might need to use a protractor to measure the value of each of these sectors. But we're not going to worry about that today because it's only a short video. I'm going to talk you through two practice exam type questions. Here they are. So question 1, I forgot to label that as a 1. What percentage of energy comes from gas and oil? So we are looking for the percentages. So we can find them quite easily on here if we read the key that's given to us, and they're quite clearly labelled. So I'm looking for gas, which is 21%, and oil. Oil is 33%. So because it says and, that means that I have to do a calculation and that I'm going to be doing an addition. So 21 plus 33, nice and simple. Probably don't even need a calculator. 1 plus 3 is 4, and 2 plus 3 is 5. And we want to express that as a percentage, as it says in the question. So the answer that I would give for question 1 would be 54%. Question 2 is a little bit more technical. Not necessarily in how we go about finding the answer, but because there are a lot of words in the question. And my handwriting's not the greatest. But let's have a quick look at this question together and see what we need to find out. So we're going to look for 2 energy sources. This happens to be, by the way, I forgot to print the title with this graph. This is the source of energy for the UK. And this is probably a little bit old, but we'll just pretend it's for this year. So which 2 energy sources represent approximately? Approximately means we don't have to be 100% exact. And that means that we're just looking for the options, because this is a multiple choice question, the best response, the most correct response. So it might not be exactly half, which is the next keyword in the question, but it's approximately half. You might think to yourself, if you see the word half, because we are dealing with percentages, sometimes even angles, because we can measure the angle of each of these sectors, what is a percentage for half of a total? Because a pie graph gives us a total. Well, I'm looking for about 50% is another way to express the idea of half. So I want 2 energy sources that are about or approximately 50% of the energy needs in the UK. So all I have to do is for the 2 energy sources for each option in the multiple choice is to calculate, much like we did for question 1, their total energy and see if it's approximately 50%. So if I have a look at these, I'll quickly add them up. Nuclear was 6%, plus gas, 21%, and that gave me 27%. So that's pretty far off 50, but it might be the closest out of these options, so we'll leave it for the moment. Oil is 33%. I'm just going to leave off the percentages for the moment. Hydroelectric is just 2, so that gives me 35%. So now we can cross out A, because B is our most correct option so far. Solar's in amongst geothermal and wind as well, so that's almost like an other category. So that's 1 plus coal, which is coal and peat, 27, which gives us 28 altogether. Still, option B is closer to 50%, so I'm going to rule out C as well. The last option is gas, 21, plus coal, 27. And that gives me, if I do a quick calculation, 8 plus 2 and 2 is 4, 48%. That is very close to that 50% or half that we were looking for. So I'm actually going to cross out option B, which is 35, because I'm looking for the most correct option out of all 4, option D, because it had 2 energy sources of gas and coal, and it was approximately half, 50% of the energy needs. So that's it. These are the types of questions you might get asked. I'm sure there's others, but this was just a quick rundown of how you might use a sector graph.